Oh, hi all, welcome back to the John Deere B tractor restoration. And in that picture there you have a rebuilt governor with the gears all put back inside it, and the fan shaft and fan connected to the casing. So the first thing to do, I haven't videoed this when I've rebuilt this governor because to be fair it's a bit of a fiddly thing to do, and it would take loads of minutes of video time to do it. But I'll just quickly run through what I do on how I get them somewhere near. So the first thing I make sure I have is plenty of paper gaskets, or in the case of this, plenty of paper shims. Now in the manual it suggests that you put so many numbers of shims in one packing in here, and so many numbers of shims in the bearing cover here. Now that's fair enough, that's what I do. I put so many shims in either, and then I just bolt it together, and that gives us some idea of where we are with what we're trying to achieve, which is basically trying to achieve the correct heel of the bevel gears, which is making sure that they are perfectly flat across that area here where the screwdriver is, across the backs of the two bevel gears. And once you've got that, the next thing to do is to make sure you get the right backlash, which is the amount of movement the two gears actually have between each other. So to achieve the correct heel, i.e. the levelness on the two bevel gears, is the first thing you do. And by doing that, you either, if you find the gears are the fan shaft gear sits too high, then you would take one of the thinnest shims out of this packing in here. Or if you find that it's too tight, i.e. the gears are too tight and that heel there is in over, then you would put an extra shim in here. So once you've done that and you're happy with the with this flat area in the back here, then you move on to sorting out the gear backlash, being the clearance between these two gears in their teeth area. Now this is where it all gets a bit sort of fiddly, because unfortunately with the fan shaft, this tube being not slack but being able to move in this housing because of that rubber O-ring that we put in, it does to some extent alter your backlash all the time. So what I tend to do is, I've laid it out on the bench there like that, but what I tend to do is actually sit it in the vise attached to one of these lugs, so that the fan shaft is pointing straight up in the air, and so it is vertical to the governor housing. And then I measure the backlash. Well, initially you can tell, if it's too tight there's no backlash, or if it's too slack there's a lot of backlash. And if it's too tight, you would add an extra shim in this packing on this housing to pull the shaft out over. But if it's not tight enough, you would take the thinnest shim out to push the gear in over, which would bring the tolerances somewhere near down in these gears. Now in the manual it talks of between 4 and 7 thousandths of an inch. Obviously you try and get it as tight as possible, but on this occasion I've come to a compromise. It's quite good. and I'm happy to run it at 7 thousandths, which is the maximum that it suggests you should have. So on that, you can see it moving there. Well, it's not coming out so well, but it's round about 7 thousandths of an inch. There we go. In fact, it's actually about 6 thousandths. But as I say, that can alter the minute the fan shaft starts moving around in its housing. So it's all a little bit of a compromise and all the rest of it, really. So once you're happy with that, then take it all back to bits, and then I put a little bit of sealant on all those gaskets. Although I think I've ended up with 2 gaskets in there and 2 in the bearing housing here. So a bit of sealant on there. And remember, before you put it back together, and I'll just take the dial meter off. Over there. Remember, before you put it in, make sure you get the throttle shaft, that's that shaft here that comes out, and the paddle, that bit there. Make sure you get that installed and then wiggle the gears past it, because once you've got these gears in, you cannot get that in. You've got to put that in first with its paddle on, and before you put the gears in, and then just wiggle it all past, and then you're in business. And I tend to put some Loctite on those 2 set screws, because the last thing you want is them coming undone. So yeah, that's about as much as you can say, really, on the governor. Sorry, on the governor. One thing has come to my thoughts. In a video a while back, I had the governor sat on top of the engine, and we had it lined up with the with that dot. So we had the governor gear lined up with that dot, and of course, not thinking about it, it's very hard to really line that governor up now, because obviously you can't see that dot on its on the governor drive gear. But when we come to fit it, I'll I'll point out how it should be somewhere near, well, how it will be spot on, really, which involves obviously timing the engine up to a top dead center point, and ensuring that magneto drive is horizontal to the top of the engine. Yeah, so there we are. Now I'm going to have to paint the governor before it goes on, give it its final coats of paint, because obviously when it's on the engine it runs very tight to the top of the manifold here, and it would be very difficult to paint it. I think it would be anyway. Yeah, no, it would be. It would be. So we will paint the governor, and then once that's ready to go, we'll get it fitted. Yeah. So there we go. That's the next job. Put some paint on that governor. Okay. Thank you very much. Bye.